Gandhar Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Juki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupara Shatar Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shata Shishmar Shri Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashatara Shata Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Maha-bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkṣaras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Sharda Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Kṛṣṇa Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Vedanta Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ki Jai Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata Ki Jai Shri the Gaudiya Bhashya of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams Nari Hari Prabhu and Bhavatarani Mataji and Rup Manjari Didi and Nitai and whoever else is there. I see there's a few other devotees there. Vidya Lalasa Didi and Pranams everybody. Hari Bo. Okay. So maybe okay, let's sing a little kirtan first before we begin. Which Mahaprabhu kirtan should we do? Let's skip the Madanga. Stu Prabhu He Emona Dormati. And okay. O Lord, I am so unfortunate to have fallen into this material world. But you have sent an exalted soul, one of your own associates, to save me. Being compassionate upon seeing me in such a fallen condition, he said, O humbled soul, listen to this good advice by which your heart will become joyful. To deliver you, Śrī Kṛṣṇa Caitanya has descended to the land of Navadvip. He has led so many poor and lowly souls like you across the ocean of material existence. In order to fulfill the promise of the Vedas, he has appeared with a golden complexion as the son of a Brahmana. Known by the name Mahaprabhu, he and his brother, the Avadhut Nityananda, have caused all of Nadia to become maddened in divine ecstasy. Śrī Caitanya, who is directly the son of Nanda, has saved the world by distributing his own name. You go also and receive your deliverance. O Lord, hearing these words, Bhakti Vinod has come to your lotus feet. weeping, he tells the story of his life. One second, I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. Okay. O Prabhu he emon durmati sangsar bhitare aporiya yachino ami tavane jan kono mahajane পাঠাইয়া দিলে তুমি দয়া করি মোরে পতিত দেখিয়া কহিল আমারে গিয়া ওহে দীন জন শুনো ভালো কথা উল্লাসিত হবে হিয়া তোমারে তারিতে শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য নবদ্বীপে অবতার তোমাহেন কত দীনহীন জনে করিলেন ভবপার বেদের প্রতিজ্ঞা রাখিবার তরে রুক্মবর্ণ বিপ্রসূত মহাপ্রভু নামে নদিয়া মাতায় সঙ্গে ভাই অবধূত নন্দসুতা যিনি চৈতন্য গোসাই নিজ নাম করি দান তারিল জগৎ তুমিও যাইয়া লহ নিজ পরিত্রাণ সে কথা শুনিয়া আসিয়াছি নাথ তোমার চরণ তলে ভক্তি বিনোদ কাঁদিয়া কাঁদিয়া আপন কাহিনী বলে আপন কাহিনী বলে প্রভু হে এমন দুর্মতি সংসার ভিতরে পড়িয়া আছিনো আমি তব নিজ জন কোনো মহাজনে পাঠাইয়া দিলে তুমি পাঠাইয়া দিলে তুমি Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Jai Gaura Hari, Jai Sachinandan Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jai Gaura Hari, Jai Gurudeva, 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 Jai Gurudeva, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, Hari Bol Ganga Mataji. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, Mangala Charan. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Thar Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ajanulambita bhujao Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika pitaro Kamalaya Vishwambharo Dijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Namastrikala Satyaya Jagannatha Sutaya Cha Sabhrityaya Saputraya Sakalatraya Te Namaha. Jai 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 Vishwambara Dvijaraj, Jai Vishwambara Priya Vaishnava Samaj, Gauranga Jai, Gaurachandra Jai Dharma Setu Mahadir, Jai Sankirtana Moy Sundara Sharir, Jai Nityanandir Bandhava Dhana Pran, Jai Gadadhar Advaiter Prema Dham, Jai Shri Jagarananda Priya Atishay, Jai Vakreshwar Kashishwarer Hriday, Jai Jai Shivasari Priya Varganath, Jiva Prati Koro Prabhu Shubha Drishtipat, Madhya-khaṇḍa Katha Jeno Amriter Khanda, Je Katha Shunile Ghuche Antar Pashanda, Madhya-khaṇḍa Katha Bhai Shuno Ek Chitte, Sankirtan Aramba Hoilo Jeno Mate. Tvai Vasmi, Na Jivami Tvaya Vina, Iti Vigyaya Devi Tvam, Nayamang Charanantikam. Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai, Shiptashtakama Dittaranga Madhye, Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna, Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The glories of Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata and Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur from Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita. Ore muro lok shuno Caitanya Mangal, Caitanya Mahima Jate Jani Beshakal. Kṛṣṇa Lila Bhagavate Kohe Ved Vyas, Caitanya Lilar Vyas Vrindavana Das, Vrindavana Dasa Koilo Caitanya Mangal, Jahan Shravane Nashe Sarva Amangal, Caitanya Nitar Jate Jani Mahima, Jate Jani Krishna Bhakti Siddhanter Sima, Bhagavate Jatta Bhakti Siddhanter Sar, Likhiya chen iha jani Koriya udhar, Caitanya Mangal shune jadi pashandi javan, Sheho Maha Vaishnava hoy tatakhan, Manushera chitte nare aiche granta dhanya, Vrindavana dasa mukhe Vakta Śrī Caitanya, Vrindavana dasa pore koti namaskar, Aiche granta korite ho tari la sangsar, Narayani Caitanye puchishta bhajan, Tar garbe janmila Śrī dasa Vrindavan, Tar ki arbutta Caitanya charita varnan, Jahara Shravane Shuddha Koila Tribhuvan, Sahaje Vichitra Madhur Caitanya Vihar, Vrindavana Dasa Mukhe Amrite Dhar. By nature, all the activities of Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu are very wonderful and sweet, and when they are described by Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur, they become like a shower of nectar. Jai Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai, Jai Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata ki jai, Śrī Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai. In the Gaudiya Bhashya commentary, Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada ki jai. All right, so continuing on from where we left off. Hey, what happened? Let's go back to 147 and just read the verses up to that point. Okay, so we read about Mahaprabhu when he returned from Gaya, completely transformed. And then he told the devotees that I want to explain, I want to reveal to you the pain of my heart in a secluded place. Let's meet tomorrow at Shuklambar Brahmachari's house. Right? And then Gadadhar Pandit, he arrived there before the Lord, and he hid behind in a room. And then the devotees arrived there. So let's see what. Oh, and also yesterday, I think we read about Mahaprabhu's explaining to his students how everything is rooted in the glories of Krishna's name, and how that's the purpose. All words, all scriptures, it's the essence of it all is coming from the Lord. That's what I remember, at least. Okay. Okay, then the Lord went to the house of Mukunda Sanjay, where he sat down in the Chandi Mandap. That's the front area, the temple room area. Outside it in the front, there's a temple room. Accompanied by his relatives, The most pious Mukunda Sanjaya experienced unlimited happiness. The Lord embraced Purushottam Sanjaya and drenched his body with tears. All the ladies made auspicious sounds, and the house of Mukunda became the abode of supreme happiness. After glancing mercifully on everyone, Mahaprabhu returned to his house. Upon arriving at his house, the Lord sat at the doorstep of his Vishnu temple, where he affectionately bid farewell to his students. Everyone who came to greet the Lord was unable to understand his characteristics. They found none of the arrogance that the Lord had previously exhibited. Rather, they found him always in a renounced mood. Mother Shachi was unable to understand anything of her son's behavior. She simply worshipped the Ganga and Lord Vishnu for her son's welfare. She prayed, "O Krishna Chandra, you took away my husband, and you took away my son. Now I only have this one son left. O Krishna, I have no one to protect me. Please give me the benediction that Vishvambar may peacefully remain at home." Mother Shachi purposely brought Vishnupriya and had her sit in front of her son. Although the Lord gazed in her direction, he did not actually see her. The Lord constantly recited verses and cried as he continually implored, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" Sometimes he roared loudly in such a way that Vishnupriya Devi ran in fear, and Shachi became frightened. Due to feelings of separation from Krishna, the Lord could not sleep at night. He'd feel so uncomfortable that sometimes he would get up from bed, and sometimes he would lie down, and sometimes he would just sit there. As soon as the Lord saw a materialistic person, he would conceal his internal mood. Every morning he would go take bath in the Ganga. As soon as the Lord returned from taking bath in the Ganga, his students would assemble there. The Lord did not explain anything other than Krishna, so the students could not understand anything. By the students' request, the Lord began to reveal the glories of the Supreme Lord to them. The students opened their books while chanting the name of Hari. The son of Mother Shachi was greatly pleased to hear this. On hearing the name of Hari, the Lord lost all external consciousness. Then the jewel of the twice-born cast his merciful glance on everyone there. Being fully absorbed in Krishna, the Lord explains the names of Hari in all the sutras, aphorisms, and commentaries of Shastra. The Lord said, "The holy names of Krishna are the eternal truth. All scriptures explain Krishna and nothing else. Krishna is the supreme controller, the creator, the maintainer, and the annihilator. Everyone, beginning from Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, is his servant." The life of anyone who gives up the lotus feet of Krishna and explains things as separate from him is useless as a result of his false statements. The philosophies in all scriptures headed by the Agamas and Vedanta describe the wealth of devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna. Teachers, bewildered by the illusory energy of Krishna, give up the devotional service of Krishna and take to other paths. Lord Krishna is the ocean of mercy, the life and soul of the universe, the lover of his servants, and the darling son of the cowherd Nanda. Even if one studies all the scriptures, if he has no affection or inclination for the name of Krishna, he is certainly degraded. If a poor fallen person takes to chanting the holy names of Krishna, he attains the abode of Krishna in spite of having many faults. This is the purport of all scriptures. Anyone who doubts this fact suffers. Anyone who explains the scriptures without referring to the worship of Krishna is a fallen soul who does not know the purport of the scriptures. Those who do not know the purport of the scriptures yet teach them to others are simply like asses carrying the load of the scriptures. People obtain death and destruction through such study of the Vedas, and as a result, they are deprived of the festivals of Lord Krishna. The Lord awarded liberation to Putana. Yet people still leave aside Kṛṣṇa to meditate on others. For what happiness will someone give up the glorification of He who delivered the most sinful Aghasura? The entire world is purified by the name of Kṛṣṇa. Yet wretched living entities abstain from chanting His glories. Even the demigods headed by Brahma are overwhelmed by Kṛṣṇa's festivals. Yet people give up such festivals and take pleasure in inauspicious dancing and singing. The holy names of Kṛṣṇa delivered Ajamila. Oops, I'm on mute. I don't know why the internet cut out, but I just moved over to my mobile connection. Share my screen again. Okay. Oh brothers, may you all desire to attain the same lotus feet that Lakshmi desires to serve, the same lotus feet by whose worship Lord Shiva has become known as a pure servant, and the same lotus feet from which the Ganga emanated. Who in Navadvip has the power to refute my explanations before me? Yes, who has the power to refute my explanations? Vishvambar, so now that's the end of Mahaprabhu speaking to the students. Then Mahaprabhu is the supreme Brahman and the personification of transcendental sound. Therefore, whatever he explains is the supreme truth. The students were captivated as they heard the Lord's explanations with undivided attention. And the Lord also became overwhelmed while he explains the truth. Every word inherently establishes Kṛṣṇa as the supreme truth, so there is no wonder that the Lord should explain in this way. After a while, Vishvambar regained his external consciousness. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, he began to inquire. He said, How is my explanation of the sutras today? The students replied, Kichuna Bhojilu, we have not understood anything. You explained every word simply in relationship with Kṛṣṇa, so who is the proper candidate of understanding your explanations? Vishvambar smiled and said, Listen, brothers, pack up your books for today and let's go to the Ganga. Pack up your books for today and let us go take bath in the Ganga. Being instructed by the Lord, the students packed up their books and went with him to bathe in the Ganga, to take bath in the Ganga. As Lord Vishvambar sported in the Ganga, it appeared that the full moon was rising from the middle of the ocean. Vishvambar's sporting in the water of the Ganga was seen by the most pious inhabitants of Nadia. The same Lord that personalities such as Brahma desired to see was now sporting in the water in the form of a Brahmana. All those persons who were taking bath at the bathing ghats of the Ganga gazed at the face of Śrī Gaurachandra. They all remarked to one another, Glorious are the father and mother of such a son. Being touched by the Lord, Goddess Ganga became joyful, and out of delight she manifested her agitation in waves. Jahnavi thus danced in the form of waves to worship the Lord, whose feet are served by innumerable universes. The daughter of Janu encircled the Lord on all sides and showered him with her tears while remaining unseen. The purport of these pastimes is known only to the Vedas, but later some of these pastimes will be revealed by the Puranas. After completing their bath, Vishvambar and his students returned to their own homes. The Lord changed his clothes, washed his feet, and then offered water to Tulsi. Then, after properly worshipping Govinda, the Lord came inside and sat down to take his meal. Mother Shachi brought fine cooked rice with a tulsi flower on top and placed it before the Lord. After offering foods to Vishwaksena, the Lord of innumerable universes began to eat. Shachi, the mother of the universe, sat before the Lord, and the most chaste Vishnupriya watched from within the next room. Mother Shachi asked, "My dear son, what books did you study today? Did you quarrel with anyone?" The Lord replied, "Today I read about the names of Kṛṣṇa. The lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa are in fact the reservoirs of transcendental qualities. Hearing and chanting about the qualities and names of Kṛṣṇa is the truth. And the servants of Krishna Chandra are also the truth. The literatures that glorify devotional service to Krishna are true scriptures. Others are simply atheistic." And then there's a Sanskrit verse. One should never hear scripture or a Purana that does not prominently describe the devotional service of Hari, even if it is recited by the four-headed Lord Brahma. Mahaprabhu says, "A Chandal is not a Chandal if he chants the name of Krishna, and a Brahmana is not a Brahmana if he engages in sinful activities." This is a very long commentary. Yeah, okay. So now this is where we read up to yesterday. Whatever the Lord as Kapila had previously instructed his mother, he now instructed to his mother again in the same mood. So this is what, in the same mood as Kapila, who spoke to his mother Devahuti. Mahaprabhu was explaining to his mother. Let's see what he says. Let me know if the connections also is not okay, because I'm using my mobile data now. Okay. Shuno shuno mata Krishna bhaktir prabhav sarva bhave koro mata Krishne anurag Krishna sevakir mata kabu nahi nash Kal chakra dadai dekhiya Krishna das Garbhavase jata dhuka janme va marane Krishner sevaka mata kichui na jane. O Mother, please hear the glories of devotional service to Krishna. Be attached to Krishna in all respects. O Mother, the servants of Krishna are never destroyed. Even the wheel of time is frightened by the sight of Krishna's devotees. O Mother, Krishna's servants do not undergo the tribulations of residing in a womb, taking birth, or dying. Gaudiya Bhashya by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. For a description of the glories of devotional service to Krishna and the devotees of devotional service to Krishna and the devotees of Krishna, one should refer to the statements of Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti, recorded in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, verses 32 to 44. One who worships Krishna is not subjected, like the conditioned souls, to birth, sustenance, and death, which are the effects of the material time factor. Actually, the devotees of the Lord are never vanquished by the influence of time. They lead a life of devotional service and eternally engage in the service of Hari. The formidable wheel of time, which brings about birth, sustenance, and death to everyone, including the demigods, is frightened by seeing the influence of the devotee's devotional service. The formidable wheel of time forces the conditioned souls, or persons averse to Kṛṣṇa, to wander through various species of life. In other words, it forces them to take birth and eventually kills them. But since the devotees of the Lord are eternal, spiritual, and self-realized, because of this, such a formidable wheel of time cannot touch them. Rather, it follows them like an obedient servant. And the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 3.25-43, Lord Kapiladev speaks to his mother Devahuti as follows. Jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yogena yogina kshemaya paramulangne pravishantya kuto bhayam. Devotional service. Oh, it looks like there's some words missing here. Okay, then let's just read it from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam directly, because the beginning of this. Okay. The yogis, equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation, and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit, take shelter of my lotus feet. And since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear. Being decorated with a garland of birth and death, persons averse to and forgetful of Kṛṣṇa suffer various tribulations in the wombs of their mothers. The devotees of the Lord, however, do not feel any inconvenience or disgust while living in the wombs of their mothers. Rather, by the will of the Lord, they remain indifferent to the miseries resulting from living in the womb and engage in the service of the Lord even in that state. In fact, the devotees of the Lord do not feel any kind of distress at any stage of life, either in the present or future life. They continually remain absorbed in the bliss of Kṛṣṇa's service. The prime example of this fact is the constant remembrance of Kṛṣṇa by the Mahabhagavat Sri Prahlād while residing in the womb of his mother Kayadu. Jagater Pita Kṛṣṇa Jena bhaje bap Pitri drohi patakir janma janma tap. Kṛṣṇa is the father of the entire universe, and anyone who does not respect his father is rebellious and sinful, and therefore subjected to miseries, birth after birth. Gaudiya Bhashya. Both the animate world of living entities and the inanimate world of matter emanate from Kṛṣṇa. Therefore, Kṛṣṇa is the only father of the entire world. Just as it is the prime duty of the grateful son to serve and follow his father, every living entity, particularly the human beings, should understand that the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa are the original source of the entire creation. In other words, they are the source of everything and are meant to be always worshipped by everyone. Those living entities who are deprived of knowledge in the science of self-realization and devoid of devotional service to Kṛṣṇa, who is the original Narayan and the father of the lotus-born Brahma, are in reality ungrateful sons, and therefore subjected to the miseries of material existence. The three types of miseries in this world, adhyatmika, adhibhautika, and adidaivika, that's miseries inflicted by the body and mind, those inflicted by other living entities, and those inflicted by natural disturbances. So these three types of miseries in this world have been arranged for the benefit of such ungrateful, offensive sons who transgress the principles of religion. In the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 11.5.3, Śrī Chamasa Muni, one of the Nava-yogendras, speaks to Nimi, the king of Videha, as follows. Okay, so Chamasa Muni says, Ya esham purusham shakshad atma prabhavam ishvaram nabhajantya vajananti Stanar Brashta Patantyada. If any of the members of the 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams fail to worship or intentionally disrespect the personality of Godhead, who is the source of their own creation, they will fall down from their position into a hellish state of life. So Mahaprabhu said, Krishna is the father of the entire universe, and anyone who does not respect his father is rebellious and sinful, and therefore subjected to miseries, birth after birth. Then he says, Chitta diya shuna mata jiver jagati, Kṛṣṇa na bhajile pai jate ka durgati. Dear mother, please hear attentively about the destination of the individual soul and the volume of distress he suffers by not worshipping Krishna. Gaudiya Bhashya. The pathetic condition of the living entities who are bereft of the service of Lord Krishna is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya-lila, chapter 20, verses 117 to 118 as follows. Krishna boli she jiva anadi bahirmukh, ataeva maya tare deya sangsara dukh. Kabu swarge uthaye, kabu narake dubai, dandya jane raja jena nadite chubai. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. In the material condition, the living entity is sometimes raised to higher planetary systems and material prosperity, and sometimes drowned in a hellish situation. His state is exactly like that of a criminal, whom a king punishes by submerging him in the water and then raising him again from the water. One should particularly discuss the statements of Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti, found in the Śrīmad-bhāgavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 30, and chapter 31, verses 1 to 31. Moriya moriya puna pai garbhavas, sarva ange hoy purva papir prakash. The living entity repeatedly dies and suffers the miseries of confinement within the womb. The reactions to his sinful activities manifest in every one of his limbs. Gaudiya Bhashya. The statements of Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti, found in Śrīmad-bhāgavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 30 and chapter 31, verses 1 to 31, are as follows. Okay. The personality of Godhead, Kapila said, As a mass of clouds does not know the powerful influence of the wind, a person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor by which he is being carried. Whatever is produced by the materialist with great pain and labor for so-called happiness, the Supreme Lord, as a time factor, destroys. The Lord destroys, and for this reason, the conditioned soul laments. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent, and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which are in relationship to that body, are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. The living entity, in whatever species of life he appears, finds a particular type of satisfaction in that species, and he is never averse to being situated in such a condition. The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life. While deluded by the covering influence of the illusory potency, he feels a little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. Such satisfaction with one's standard of living is due to deep-rooted attraction for body, wife, home, children, animals, wealth, and friends. In such association, the conditioned soul thinks himself quite perfect. Although he is always burning with anxiety, such a fool always performs all kinds of mischievous activities with a hope which is never to be fulfilled, in order to in order to maintain his so-called family and society. He gives his heart and senses to a woman who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces and talking with her, and he is enchanted by the sweet words of the small children. The attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics. Always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification, he acts just to counteract the reactions of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he is happy. He secures money by committing violence here and there, and although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased, and he goes to hell for those for whom he earns the money in such an irregular way. When he suffers reverses in his occupation, he tries again and again to improve himself. But when he is baffled in all his attempts and is ruined, he accepts money from others because of excessive greed. Thus, the unfortunate man, unsuccessful in maintaining his family members, is bereft of all beauty. He always thinks of his failure, grieving very deeply. Seeing him unable to support them, his wife and others do not treat him with the same respect as before, even as miserly farmers do not accord the same treatments to their old and worn-out oxen. The foolish family man does not become averse to family life, although he is maintained by those whom he once maintained. Deformed by the influence of old age, he prepares himself to meet ultimate death. Thus he remains at home just like a pet dog and eats whatever is so negligently given to him. Afflicted with many illnesses such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite, he eats only very small morsels of food, and he becomes an invalid who cannot walk any more. In that diseased condition, one's eyes bulge due to the pressure of air from within, and his glands become congested with mucus. He has difficulty breathing, and upon exhaling and inhaling, he produces a sounds like grr, grr, with a rattling within the throat. In this way, he comes under the clutches of death and lies down, surrounded by lamenting friends and relatives. And although he wants to speak with them, he no longer can, because he is under the control of time. Thus the man who is engaged with uncontrolled senses and maintaining a family dies in great grief, seeing his relatives crying. He dies most pathetically, in great pain and without consciousness. At death, he sees the messengers of the Lord of Death come before him, their eyes full of wrath, and in great fear he passes stool and urine. As a criminal is arrested for punishment by the constables of the state, a person engaged in criminal sense gratification is similarly arrested by the Yamadutas, who bind him by the neck with a strong rope and cover his subtle body so that he may undergo severe punishment. While carried by the constables of Yamaraj, he is overwhelmed and trembles in their hands. While passing on the road, he is bitten by dogs, and he can remember the sinful activities of his life. He is thus terribly distressed. Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through the roads of hot sands with forest fires on both sides. He is whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk, and he is afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, and no place for rest on the road. While passing on that road to the abode of Yamaraj, he falls down in fatigue, and sometimes he becomes unconscious. But he is forced to rise again. In this way, he is very quickly brought to the presence of Yamaraj. Thus, he has to pass 99,000 yojanas within 2 or 3 moments. And then he is at once engaged in the torturous punishment which he is destined to suffer. He is placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood, and his limbs are set on fire. In some cases, he is made to eat his own flesh, or have it eaten by others. Oh my God. That's intense. Can you imagine? His entrails are pulled out by the hounds and vultures of hell, even though he is still alive to see it. And he is subjected to torment by serpents, scorpions, gnats, and other creatures that bite him. Next, his limbs are lopped off and torn asunder by elephants. He is hurled down from hilltops, and he is also held captive either in water or in a cave. And this is all done in his, what is it called? His Jatana Sharir. It's like a body meant for suffering. So even though he's having all his bodily limbs pulled apart and, going through all these things, he doesn't die so that he can experience the pain. He doesn't get that relief of death. He just has to, Men and women whose lives are built upon indulgence and illicit sex life are put into many kinds of miserable conditions in the hells known as Tamisra, Andhatamisra, and Rorav. Lord Kapila continued. My dear mother, it is sometimes said that we experience hell or heaven on this planet, for hellish punishments are sometimes visible on this planet also. Like we now see right now, imagine all the people in Gaza right now. That is hell. After leaving this body, the man who maintains himself and his family members by sinful activities suffers a hellish life, and his relatives suffer also. He goes alone to the darkest regions of hell after quitting the present body, and the money he acquired by envying other living entities is the passage money with which he leaves this world. Thus, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kinsmen is put into a hellish condition to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth. Therefore, a person who is very eager to maintain his family and kinsmen simply by black methods certainly goes to the darkest region of hell, which is known as Andhatamisra. Having gone through all the miserable hellish conditions, and having passed in a regular order through the lowest forms of animal life prior to human birth, and having thus been purged of his sins, one is reborn again as a human being on this earth. The Personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. On the first night, the sperm and ovum mix, and on the 5th night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a form like a plum, and after that, it gradually turns into a lump of flesh or an egg, as the case may be. In the course of a month, a head is formed, and at the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, the nails, fingers, toes, bodily hair, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and the other apertures in the body, namely the eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and anus. Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely, I don't know how to say that word, but chyle, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen come into existence. At the end of 5 months, sorry, probably should just look this up. Whatever. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt, and at the end of 6 months, the fetus, enclosed by the amnion, begins to move on to the right side of the abdomen. Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worms. Bitten again and again all over the body by the hungry worms in the abdomen itself, the child suffers terrible agony because of his tenderness. He thus becomes unconscious moment after moment because of the terrible condition. Owing to the mother's... Sorry, let me just check the comments. Okay. Owing to the mother's eating bitter, pungent foodstuffs, or food which is too salty or too sour, the body of the child incessantly suffers pains which are almost intolerable. Placed within the amnion and covered outside by the intestines, the child remains lying on one side of the abdomen, his head turned towards his belly and his back and neck arched like a bow. The child thus remains just like a bird in a cage, without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace? What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? Thus endowed with the development of consciousness from the 7th month after his conception, the child is tossed downward by the airs that press the embryo during the weeks preceding delivery. Like the worms born of the same filthy abdominal cavity, he cannot remain in one place. The living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by the 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only, because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, am lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him, who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances. I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made of 5 elements, and therefore my qualities and senses are being misused, although I am essentially spiritual. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to material nature and the living entities, because he is devoid of such a material body, and because he is always glorious in his spiritual qualities, I offer my obeisances unto him. The human soul further prays. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditional life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord? No one other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a localized Paramatma, the partial representation of the Lord, is directing all inanimate and animate objects. He is present in the 3 phases of time, past, present, and future. Therefore, the conditioned soul is engaged in different activities by the Lord's direction, and in order to get free from the 3-fold miseries of this conditional life, we have to surrender unto him only. Fallen into a pool of blood, stool, and urine within the abdomen of his mother, his own body scorched by the mother's gastric fire, the embodied soul, anxious to get out, counts his months and prays, O my Lord, when shall I, a wretched soul, be released from this confinement? My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness, although I am only 10 years old. For this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. The living entity in another type of body sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body, by whose grace I can see him within and without. Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy, called Devamaya, at once captures the newly born child, and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death, begins. Therefore, without being agitated any more, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of nescience with the help of my friends, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers for repeated birth and death. Lord Kapila continued. The 10-month-old living entity has these desires even while in the womb. But while he thus extols the Lord, the winds that helps parturition propels him forth, with his face turned downward so that he may be born. Pushed downward all of a sudden by the wind, the child comes out with great trouble, head downward, breathless, and deprived of memory due to severe agony. Thus the child falls on the ground, smeared with stool and blood, and plays just like a worm germinated from the stool. He loses his superior knowledge and cries under the spell of Maya. After coming out of the abdomen, the child is given to the care of persons who are unable to understand what he wants, and thus he is nursed by such persons. Unable to refuse whatever is given to him, he falls into undesirable circumstances. Laid down on a foul bed infested with sweat and germs, the poor child is incapable of scratching his body to get relief from his itching sensation, to say nothing of sitting up, standing, or even moving. In his helpless condition, gnats, mosquitoes, bugs, and other germs bite the baby, whose skin is tender, just as smaller worms bite a big worm. The child, deprived of his wisdom, cries bitterly. In this way, the child passes through his childhood, suffering different kinds of distress, and attains boyhood. In boyhood, also, he suffers pain over desires to get things he can never achieve, and thus, due to ignorance, he becomes angry and sorry. With the growth of the body, the living entity, in order to vanquish his soul, increases his false prestige and anger, and thereby creates enmity towards similarly lusty people. By such ignorance, the living entity accepts the material body, which is made of 5 elements, as himself. With this understanding, he accepts non-permanent things as his own, and he increases his ignorance in the darkest region. For the sake of the body, which is a source of constant trouble to him, and which follows him because he is bound by ties of ignorance and fruitive activities, he performs various actions which cause him to be subjected to repeated birth and death. One should seriously discuss these degradations, miseries in the womb, and tortures by the wheel of time experienced by the conditioned souls who are averse to and forgetful of Lord Kṛṣṇa. So now the purport up to this point applies to verses 204 to 236. Okay, so I guess that's the end of that. Now, in the course of time, Every object in the material world of birth, sustenance, and death successively takes birth, grows, stays for some time, produces byproducts, and dies. Misusing his independence, the spiritual living entity gives up the worship of Kṛṣṇa out of greed for material objects that are not related to Kṛṣṇa. At that point, his natural characteristics are transposed, and the propensity for material enjoyment appears palatable to him. This is the reason for the living entity's misuse of independence and his suffering the resultant miseries of material existence. As a result of misusing his independence, the living entity is repeatedly covered by gross and subtle bodies and thrown into this perishable world. Forgetting his constitutional position and giving up the endeavor for worshipping Kṛṣṇa, he then desires to either enjoy the fruits of his karma or renounce the fruits through gyan. Therefore, when he abandons the service of Kṛṣṇa's lotus feet, he becomes bereft of and fallen from his constitutional position and repeatedly wears the garland of birth and death. When such a conditioned soul dies, his gross body gradually mixes with the five gross material elements, and his subtle body, which is full of desires for material enjoyment, leaves behind the gross body and anxiously awaits another gross body. Under the direction of the Supreme Lord, who awards everyone the fruits of their activities, that subtle body again takes up residence in a particular type of gross body according to the fruits of his karma. Thus, he actively engages in fulfilling his unsatiated desires. After death, when he takes a new gross body in the form of his mother, his previously accumulated sinful reactions manifest in his gross body in the form of diseases or deformed limbs. In order to suffer the burden of his previously acquired sinful reactions in this new gross body, the conditioned soul obtains deformed limbs and diseased bodies as a result of his sins, and then again indulges in gross sense gratification. Thereafter, as a result of past sins, the conditioned soul becomes either a father or mother of sons and daughters that he produces. Until his spiritual knowledge is awakened by the non-duplicitous mercy of the spiritual master and Kṛṣṇa, his fructified and unfructified sinful reactions are not completely exhausted. When the characteristic of averseness to Kṛṣṇa produces in the conditioned souls the mentality of accepting the body as a self. When the characteristic of averseness to Kṛṣṇa produces in the material souls the mentality of accepting the body as a self, then the causelessly merciful Kṛṣṇa Chandra sometimes comes personally, and sometimes sends his dear associate as a teacher, preacher, or deliverer of the transcendental sounds of the spiritual world to revive the constitutional position of the unfortunate souls who have forgotten Kṛṣṇa. While living in the womb of his mother, the conditioned soul suffers various miseries or distresses in the form of disease as punishment for his previous sinful activities, thus accounting for those previous sins. Wow, that was a long commentary. Okay. Let's just see, because that was so long. Let's just see what that was about again, just so that I get the flow. 1 second. Okay, so Mahaprabhu is telling his mother while he's taking prasad, he says, "The living entity repeatedly dies and suffers the miseries of confinement within the womb. The reactions to his sinful activities manifest in every one of his limbs." Okay. Now, next verse. Katu amla lavana janani jata khai, ange giya lage tar maha moha pai. All the bitter, sour, and salty preparations that the mother eats creates great inconvenience to the body of the child within the womb. Mankshamoy anga krimi kule bedi khai, guchaite nahi shakti maraye jvalai. The worms within the mother's stomach bite the tender flesh of the child, yet the child is unable to drive them away and continually burns with pain. Narite na pare tapta panjarer majhe, tabe pran rahe bhavita vyatar kaje. Being encased within the hot ribs of his mother, the child cannot move, yet he survives by the arrangement of providence. Gaudiya Bhashya. The phrase bhavita vyatar kaje means due to unseen or inevitable fortune. Kona ati patakir janma nahi hoy, garbe garbe hoy puna utpatti praloy. Some most sinful persons do not even take birth. They repeatedly enter and die in the womb. They repeatedly enter and die in womb after womb. Shuno shuno mata jiva tatver sangstan, satamase jiver garbete hoy gyan. O mother, please hear attentively about the fate of the living entity. At the end of 7 months, the living entity develops consciousness. Tokone shishmariya kore anutap, stuti kore krishnere chariya ghana shvasa. At that time, the living entity remembers his previous sinful activities and repents. He sighs deeply and offers prayers to Kṛṣṇa. Rakha Kṛṣṇa jiva jagat jiver prananat, toma boy dukha jiva nibe dibe kata. O Kṛṣṇa, O life and soul of the universe, please protect me. Other than you, to whom can a living entity submit his sorrows? Gaudiya Bhashya. The word kata, the ancient Bengali words kuta, kota, kati, and kata, come from the Sanskrit word kutra, which means where, whom, with who, and at whose place. Je koroe bandi prabhu, charai she, sahaje mitrere prabhu, Maya koro kise. O Lord, one who binds someone can alone set him free. Therefore, O Lord, why do you deceive one who is dead by nature? Gaudiya Bhashya. While living within the womb of his mother, a living entity in his 7th month pathetically prays to the Lord as follows. The Supreme Lord's illusory energy, who has bound me with the 3 ropes of goodness, passion, and ignorance as a prisoner within the prison house of material existence. In other words, the external material energy of the Lord, by whom I, who am averse to and forgetful of Kṛṣṇa, have been bewildered, and who is constantly burning me with the threefold miseries by making me mad to enjoy material happiness. This same illusory energy of the Lord, on seeing my inclination towards the service of the Lord that I received by the mercy of Guru and Kṛṣṇa, can, in her form as the internal spiritual potency, deliver me from the miseries of the material prison. O Lord, the moment that I forgot you and became averse to you by not accepting you as my eternally worshipful Lord and the cause of all causes, and the moment I became absorbed in the illusory objects not related to you, from that moment, as a result of my perverted intelligence, I have become like a dead body, though breathing. In other words, as a result of identifying myself as the enjoyer and becoming the servant of unconscious matter, I am no better than a dead corpse. Why are you again further deceiving me through your illusory energy, which bewilders persons who are averse to you? Being forgetful of Kṛṣṇa and always remaining busy gratifying our senses. Now it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada talking again. So being forgetful of Kṛṣṇa and always remaining busy gratifying our senses with the help of our sensual knowledge, we become averse to the transcendental service of a dhokshaj. This is proof of our natural tendency for either lording it over the material nature or becoming the servant of matter. In other words, just as material objects are bereft of the characteristic of an independent action, as a result of misusing our constitutional propensity for independence, we also become merged in ignorance, bewildered by the illusory energy. Mahaprabhu continues. Mityak dhana putra rase govailo janma na bhajilo tor dui amulya charana. I have wasted my life in vain, seeking pleasure in wealth and children. Thus, I have not worshipped your priceless lotus feet. Jai putra poshana koilo ashesha vidharme kotaba sheshav gelo mor e karme. Where are the sons that I raised through endless sinful activities now gone, leaving me alone to enjoy the results of my deeds? Ekhon o dukhe mor ke koribe paro, tumi she ekhon bandhu koriba udhar. Now, who will deliver me from this miserable condition? O Lord, you are the only friend who can deliver me. Eteke janinu satta tomar charan, rakha Prabhu Kṛṣṇa tor loinu sharan. I have therefore understood that your lotus feet are the truth. O Krishna, I take shelter of you. Please protect me. Tumi heno kalpataru thakur chariya, bhulilaya asatpate pramata hoya. Giving up a desired tree like you, I became maddened and took to sinful life. Gaudiya Bhashya. For an elaboration on the second line of this verse, one should discuss Brahma's prayer to Narayan, found in the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 396 as follows. Tavar bhayam dravina deha suhren nimittam shokaspriha paribhavo vipulaschalobha tavan mamitya sarava graha artamulan yavanateng grimabhayam pravinita loka. O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia. And they avariciously base their understandings on the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. Uchita tahara e yogya shasti hoy, korilato ebe kripa koro mahashai. O Lord, you have certainly awarded me proper punishment, but now please bestow mercy on me. E kripa koro jeno tomana pasari, je khane she khane kene na janmi na mari. Be merciful to me, so that I may not forget you wherever I take birth and die. Gaudiya Bhashya. King Kulashekar has written in his Mukunda Mala Stotra, verse 5, as follows. Nasta dharme na vasta nichaye naiva kamo prabhoge yadbhavyam tad bhavatu bhagavan purva karmanurupam etat pratyam mama bahumatam janma janmantarepi tvatpadambho ruhayugakata nischala bhaktirastu. So I praise. O my Lord, I have no attachment for religiosity or for accumulating wealth, nor for enjoying sense gratification. Let these come as they inevitably must, in accordance with my past deeds. But I do pray for this most cherished boon. Birth after birth, let me render unflinching devotional service unto your two lotus feet. In the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10.14.30, Brahma prays to Lord Krishna as follows. tarastu me natasa bhuri bhago bhavetra vanyatra tuvatirashcham yenaham pi bhavajjanam bhutva nisheve tava padapalvam. My dear Lord, I therefore pray to be so fortunate that in this life as Lord Brahma, or in another life, wherever I take my birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. I pray that wherever I may be, even among the animal species, I can engage in devotional service to your lotus feet. Jai khane tomar nahi jasher prachar, jatha nahi Vaishnava janir avatar. Jai khane tomar jatra mahotsava nai, Indra loka hoile o taha nahi chai. Any place where your glories are not heard, where the Vaishnavas do not advent, and where there are no festivals for your pleasure, I do not wish to live there, even if it is the celestial abode of Indra. Gaudiya Bhashya. Any place devoid of glorification of Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities and filled with improper behavior in the form of gratification of the conditioned soul's perishable qualities, any place where no pure devotees from Vaikuntha have advented and glorified the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna, which are non-different from Krishna, any place where the prowess of the Supreme Lord is not manifest, and any place where no festivals are celebrated for the pleasure of the Lord, even though such a place avails sense gratification equal to that of Amaravati, the abode of Indra, I do not desire it. The phrase Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate, seeing promotion to the heavenly planets as equal to a will-o'-the-wisp. So this phrase can only be applicable to one who has realized the service of a Dhokshaj, who is beyond sense perception. In other words, it can only be applicable to one who has no propensity to enjoy the external world. Since the materialists have intense desires for sense gratification, they have no possibility for remembering Vaikuntha or Lord Vishnu. That is why they disregard Vishnu's devotional service, which is devoid of other desires, and which is the shelter of selfless action. And they glorify the heavenly planets, which are ideal for sense gratification. What verse are we reading up to? Let's just see. Oh my god, I went way past where we're reading. Okay. Okay, so then maybe let's stop here. It's 8:27 now, but I'll just read some of the translations of the next verses. Okay, so let me just remember that we read up to 222. So he quotes this verse from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. An intelligent person does not take interest in a place even in the topmost planetary system if the pure Ganga of topics concerning the Supreme Lord's activities does not flow there. If there are not devotees engaged in service on the banks of such a river of piety, or if there are no festivals of Sankirtan Yajna to satisfy the Lord, especially since Sankirtan Yajna is recommended in this age. I do not mind the miseries of living in the womb provided. I do not mind the miseries of living in the womb, provided I can constantly remember you. O Lord, grant me the mercy that you will not send me to any place where remembrance of your lotus feet is absent. O Lord, I have suffered this way for millions and millions of births, simply as a result of my karma. O Lord, may those miseries and dangers come again and again, as long as your remembrance, which is the essence of all Vedas, remains intact. O Krishna, please favor me with your service, and keep me at your lotus feet as the son of your maidservant. If you once deliver me from this miserable condition of life, then I will not desire anything other than you. In this way, the child constantly burns within the womb of his mother, yet he nevertheless likes that situation because he can think of Kṛṣṇa. By the influence of his prayer, the child does not feel distress in the womb, and in due course of time, he reluctantly comes out. O my mother, please hear attentively about the living entity's condition. He loses consciousness on touching the ground. Sometimes he loses his consciousness, sometimes he cries, and sometimes he sighs. Unable to say anything, he floats in an ocean of misery. By the illusory energy of Kṛṣṇa, the servant of Kṛṣṇa suffers in this way if he does not worship Kṛṣṇa. In due course of time, the child develops intelligence and knowledge, and if he worships Kṛṣṇa, he is certainly fortunate. But if he does not worship Kṛṣṇa and takes to bad association, then he again sinks into the depths of sinful activities and delusion. If therefore the living, and then this is a Sanskrit verse again, if therefore the living entity again associates with the path of unrighteousness, influenced by sensual-minded people engaged in the pursuit of sexual enjoyment and the gratification of the palate, he again goes to hell as before. For one who has never worshipped the lotus feet of Lord Govinda, how is it possible for him to live in comfort and die in peace? To live without poverty and die peacefully, one must worship and remember Kṛṣṇa. Therefore, O mother, worship Kṛṣṇa in the association of devotees. Think of Kṛṣṇa and chant the name of Hari. There is no substantial result in activities that are devoid of devotion to the Lord. Such non-devotional activities simply result in violence to others. In this way, the Lord, in the mood of Kapila, instructed his mother. Upon hearing his words, Shachi merged in ecstasy. Whether eating, sleeping, or remaining awake, the Lord did not speak of anything other than Kṛṣṇa. When all the devotees heard from their friends about this, they discussed together and began to contemplate. Has Kṛṣṇa manifested in his body? Is this a result of devotees' association, or because of previous purificatory processes? As all the devotees contemplated in this way, their hearts filled with happiness. The devotees' distress was vanquished, and the atheists were uprooted as the Supreme Lord Vishvambara manifested himself. In the mood of a Vaishnav, Mahaprabhu Vishvambara constantly saw Kṛṣṇa present everywhere in the world. He heard the names of Kṛṣṇa both day and night, and he constantly chanted the name of Krishna Chandra. Okay, so we'll read all this tomorrow. Oh, and Kishore Krishna just shared a verse from the Mukunda Mala Stotram. Divi va bhuvi vamamastu vaso naraki va narakanta. Anyways, I'm not gonna. It means, O Lord, killer of the demon Narak, let me reside either in the realm of the demigods, in the world of human beings, or in hell, as you please. I pray only that at the point of death, I may remember your two lotus feet, whose beauty defies that of the lotus growing in the Sarat season. Ah, beautiful. Alright, so I'll chant Mahamantra and then we can end for today.
That'll be a prayer to keep to remember at the last moment.
Yes.
We're training, Shortarisan had it called the arts of dying. The art of dying, all based on what Prabhupada taught us. And Prabhupada, I just read recently, he said, even it's good to be trained during your life, as you so fortunate, like you and Kishore and all the other young devotees here. He said, at least learn one verse. So at the time of death, if you can remember that, or be able to remember chanting the holy name. Anyhow.
Yeah, and the thing is, at the time of death, we don't have control over what we think, right? Like, it's not like you can just oh yeah, I could just think of Kṛṣṇa. No, like your whole life flashes before you, and you have no control over yourself. So that what you've been thinking about mostly, and all the things that you're like, that's what's going to come up when you die. And so we better spend our time thinking about Krishna, otherwise we don't know what we're
Right.
going to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what the king Kulashekar, he prayed this. And now that I'm young and I'm serving you, I have strong senses and I can remember. Let death come to me now, because
Yes.
ending like a feeble old person is terrible. Or finding the way, But yeah, practice. One time I went to see Prabhupada in his room, and he had chest massage, and he was glowing, midden in this effulgence, and Hanuman was with me, and you could see his golden neck sticking out from behind his desk. And so, Kishore, I think, found the prayer, and by the king. And so Hanuman said, Prabhupada, I fell. You're so, I fell from sannyas. And Prabhupada smiled, and he went like, you play mridanga, on the knee. I think I told you this one. He said,
Yes.
Practice makes perfect. So you keep on practicing. If I play mridanga, the more you play, the better you're going to get.
Practice makes perfect. Nice. It's beautiful. Yes. Practice.
So we're leaving today. We're a little.
Okay.
We're sad and we're in Vrindavan and associate, but thanks to you and like that, and I will continue to hear, and all these Zoom classes and like that I've been doing and filling my days. There'll be somewhere else. Oh, okay. So there'll be we're leaving today. So yeah.
Okay. What time?
At about 10, the car is coming.
Okay,
10
very
a.m.
soon. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow. I hope you have a very
thank you, sir.
smooth, safe. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Madhukar. My dada was Hariva. Oh, I'm staying in Delhi for one day. So
Okay.
that'll be today, and then tomorrow we're taking the plane. So I have a chance to go to another class in India.
Okay, wonderful. Great.
Hariva.
Haribo.
No, pranam. So thank you, Madhukar.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Oh, and I
Jai
just see,
Sabarika.
one second, Kishore, I'll just read out that verse that you shared. Kishore shared a verse. What is that verse also from the Mukundamala Stotram?
Yeah.
Okay, so it starts Kṛṣṇa Tvadiya Parapankaja Panjarantam. The translation is, O Lord Krishna, at this moment, let the royal swan of my mind enter the tangled stems of your lotus feet. How will it be possible for me to remember you at the time of death, when my throat will be choked up with mucus, bile, and air? So that is our prayer. How can I remember you at the time of death? Let my mind enter the tangled stems of the lotus of your feet. I want my mind to be tangled up in the lotus stems. Wow, beautiful. Okay. Yeah, you can do it, Jaidwani. Sorry, I just wanted to read that first.
Yeah, there's a wonderful recording of Prabhupada singing it. Kṛṣṇa Tvadiya Parapankaja Panjarantam Adyeva Vishatame Manasaraja Hamsa Prana Prayana Samaye Kapafata Pite Kantavarodana Vidho Smaranam Kutaste.
Oh, really? Wow, nice. Beautiful.
Jai Sabrikar Shishi Gauranga Gan Harika Girid Hari Radha Vinod Vihari Radha Nainath Radha Raman Vihari Radha Marva Shishi Radha Damadar Jew Ki Jai Sri Govind Govinath Madan Mohan Jew Ki Jai Jai Nitya Leela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Paramaham Sabre Vrajagacharya Vryastotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Guru Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Paramaham Sabre Vrajagacharya Vryastotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Parit Pavan Shrila Gurudev Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Balab Tirtha Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Vedanta Vikram Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Vedanta Swami Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Dait Mar Goswami Param Guru Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Bhakti Pragyan Keshu Goswami Maharaj Param Gurudev Acharya Keshri Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Stotrashta Shishaman Jagarguru Shri Varshabhana Vidaitarasa Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Swabrika Shila Prabhupada Bhakti Snan Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnu Par Maha Parama Bhagavat Parvar Paramhamsa Ashtotrashta Shishaman Gaur Kishore Das Babshi Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnupad Saptam Goswami Astotrashta Shishimat Sachitananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Mahashaya Ki Jai Nityalela Pravishtam Vishnupad Vaishnav Sarvoma Astotrashta Shishimat Jagannath Bhavshi Maharaj Ki Jai Surya Kundavasi Siddha Shilamad Sudandas Bhavshi Maharaj Ki Jai Sri Urvadas Uttarandas Ki Jai Guruvdanda Acharya Shishimat Baladev Vibhushan Prabhu Ki Jai महामहोपरित्याय रसकृष्ण मनीषल विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर पार की जाय शिशिल रसिकानंद मुरारे प्रभु की जाय शिशिल रामचंद्र कविराज की जाय श्री लोचनदास ठाकुर की जाय जय शिल नरोत्तम श्रीनिवास श्यामानंद प्रभु त्राय की जाय जय श्रील कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी प्रभु की जाय यश अवतार अर्का विशल वृंदावन दास ठाकुर की जाय श्री अष्टकविराज वसुर जानव नित्यानंद दुरस गोपाल श्री चौसती महंत की जय जय श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ सर गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय श्री स्वरूप दामोदर रमनंद लोकनाथ गर्भ अधि गौर परिषाद वृंद की जय नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से गो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री शिल ईश्वरपुरी गोस्वामी पाद की जय श्री शिल माधवेंद्र पुरी गोस्वामी पाद की जय Sri Antardweep, Mayapur, Simandip, Gothamdeep, Madhyadip, Kalidip, Ritadip, Janadip, Mataratramadip, Rudradip, Matmaka, Sri Navdeep Dham ki jai, Shri Navdeep Dham ki jai, Shri Ekachakra Dham ki jai, Shri Shantipur Dham ki jai, Shri Gaur Chandra Bhagwan ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Garadhar ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Gopi Kapa Go Giri Govardhan Dvarshat Vanat Maka Shri Brajamandal Dham ki jai, Shri Radha Kunda Sham Kunda Ganga Saki Aman Saki Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai, वृषभानुनंदिनी ब्रजेश्वरी श्रीमती राधारानी ठाकुरानी की जय, श्री ललिता विशाखा चित्र चंपकला तटुंग विद्य इंदुले करंगरी विसुरेवि अधि सख्य वृंद की जय, श्री आनंग प्रेम जलाल श्री रूपलमंग राघविल सुगुणरति कस्तूरी कमल नयन मणि अरिमंजारी वृंद की जय, श्रीमती वृंद देवी की जय, श्री भगवती पूर्णमास युगमाय देवी की जय, श्री गोपीश्वर सरशिव महादेव की जय, जय श्री राधा परंकित धाम श्री वृंदावन की जय, जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा सुदर्शन चक्र नीलमाधव जी की जय, जय श्री जगन्नाथ पुरी पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र मंडल नीलाचल धाम की जय, श्री तत्व गोपीनाथ की जय, श्री जगत पर्वत की जय, सर्वा विघ्नामिनशन करे भक्त विघ्नामिनाश श्री नृसिंह देव की जय, भक्तराज भक्त परवर श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्री प्रहलाद लक्ष्मी नृसिंहदेव की जय, जय श्री चरिराम चरि संप्रदाय चर्याचार्य की जय, श्री मध्वार मनुजा विष्णु स्वामी निम्बदित्य चर्याचार्य की जय, आक्रमतरा श्री चैतन्य मात की जय, श्री गौरीमार वृंद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमाद भगवताम भगवद गीता चैतन्य चरितामृत चैतन्य भगवत जैव धर्म आदि सर्व गौरी वैष्णव ग्रंथ वृंद की जय, त्रिभुवन मंगल श्री हरिनाम प्रभु की जय, त्रिभुवन मंगल श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन युग धर्म की जय, त्रिभुवन मंगल धन्य कलयुग तरक ब्रह्म श्री हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, महामंत्र की जय, श्री आनंद पुरी वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री समकट गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री कृष्ण भक्ति योग की जय, जय परब्रह्मन परमेश्वर परम सत्यम पतित पावन प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम स्वयं भगवान जगन्नाथ मिश्र नंदन गौर सुंदर कराधर प्राणनाथ श्री विशंबर मिश्र श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य चंद्र महाप्रभु की जय, पतित पावन श्रीमान नित्यानंद राम हजान की जय, श्री शिल वृंदावन दास ठाकुर की जय, श्री शिल प्रभुपाद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर की जय, श्री चैतन्य भगवाद की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद गौरी वश्य की जय, जय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All the viewers watching on Facebook, Zoom and YouTube की जय। ओम वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रद देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Dandava pranams everybody. Hare Krishna. Dandava pranams Nari Hari Prabhu and Bhavatarani Mataji and Kishore Krishna Prabhu, and on YouTube and Facebook there's Rupa Manjari Didi, Nitai, Vidya Lalasa Didi, Ganga Mataji, Sudevi Didi, Vamsiwala Prabhu, and all other devotees who might be watching. Dandavat pranams. So I'll see you all tomorrow to conclude, to read the rest of these prayers in the mood of Kapila Dev. Oh, that's it.
Kṛṣṇa tadīya padapaṁ kaja paññarātam अद्दैव विशतु मे मानरश्च राजहंस प्राणप्रयाण समय कपवात वित्तौ कंठावरोधन विधौ स्मरणं कृतस्ते.
Wow, that is so beautiful. Could you share that? Where is that?
I found it on YouTube. Of course, I can share it.
Yeah, please share. I can share it in the group also if you share the link here and
Wow.
it's very beautiful.
I'm sorry, somebody came in my room, and so I missed who it is. But what transcendental voice! Who is that? Trivikram Maharaj?
Okay, Kishore. No, that was Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Wow.
Yeah. I'm sharing the link right
I
now.
thought at the
Kishore,
beginning I thought it was. Yeah.
I'm sharing the link right here in the chat. You can find it there. Hari Hari Prabhu. I'll also share it
Great.
here on YouTube. I need to release one. Yeah, you'll find it in the comments now on YouTube and Facebook.
God, didn't that go straight to your heart?
Yes. No, that was
vibration. Wow.
All right, thank you, Kishore, and
Thank you,
yeah, I
Kishore.
hope you have a smooth trip. Well, I'll see you again tomorrow then, huh? And when you're in Delhi. Okay.
Right.
Dhanyavad pranam.
Safe travels, Prabhu.
Thank you, Kishore. Very well. Thank you for your good wishes. Hare Krishna.
Pranams, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Pranam.